Good afternoon. We want to welcome those in attendance and those viewing to the Hurricane Delta Response and Recovery Public Briefing. Today is Wednesday, October 14th, 4 p.m. My name is Brian Beam, Calcasieu Parish Administrator. We are here in the Parish Government Building, and we will have some reports today. Some will be updates on things that are already in place, but there are some announcements today. And we want to start with, as we usually do, with Dick Grimion, our Emergency Preparedness Director for Calcasieu Parish.
Thank you, Brian. I'd like to start with a couple of safety tips, as we always do. One, I'm wearing, I've mentioned many times before, COVID is still active in our area, so please wear your face mask, use your social distancing. Remember to wash your hands well and cough into your elbow if you have a cough. I'm going to take my mask off now so that I can read the list. We have these points of distribution which have food, MREs, water, bottled water, and ice. I'm going to give you the current locations. Hours are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. DeQuincy at the Railroad Museum, Sulphur at the Old Time Variety Store, Iway at the KC Hall, Westlake at the Old Baptist Church at 568 Sulphur Avenue, Lake Charles Civic Center at 900 Lakeshore Drive, Memorial Park Plaza, 3009 Gerstner Memorial Drive, and Washington Marion High School at 2802 Pineview. I want to mention that we're continuing our bus lily pad, where if you need a ride back to a shelter, we're still providing that. Just bear in mind that the buses leave at 3 o'clock now instead of 8 o'clock, so we're leaving it a little bit earlier in the day. If you call someone for a ride, they will probably schedule someone to pick you up. If it's in the afternoon, they'll pick you up the next morning so that you don't have to wait so long at Burton. We want to emphasize the importance of self-reporting. We have not got a disaster declaration yet for Delta, and this is important for people to report this in so that we can prove all of our damages. The reporting site is www.damage, that's damage.la.gov. Also, if you haven't signed up for FEMA benefits, time's running out for that. I'm sure Jerry will mention that during his comments. And last thing, we have urban search and rescue teams out doing both welfare checks on people at their houses and also damage assessments, because we know that there was damage that may have been done already to Laura dwellings and businesses. We know there may be more damage now, so we're going out and checking all of those so we can compare the two if necessary. And with that, we have any questions? Okay, thank you.
All right, next we'll hear from law enforcement. Today we have Chief Deputy for the Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's Office, Stitch Gilry.
Thank you, Brian. Law enforcement reported a total of 28 arrests over the last 24 hours. Within that 28 arrests, 12 were curfew violations. I know people sometimes frown on curfew violations. I've heard more than once, this is America. We ought to be free to go wherever we want to go. Well, starting tonight, you are free to go anywhere you want to go because we'll be lifting the curfew. So I just want to thank all the law enforcement personnel within the parish that work together. And, our responsibility is protect life and property, and I think we did a pretty good job. So I want to thank the citizens for all of their cooperation, and I know it's an inconvenience, but, at the end of the day, it's about protecting life and property. So thank you, Brian. I appreciate it.
Sorry, Stitch, I didn't expect that to be so brief. I forget you're not Tony. He's not here, so he'll take that out on me later. Okay, let's go to utilities. We do have Margaret Harris with Entergy today, and when she's finished, we'll read a statement from Suddenlink. So, Margaret, if you'd like to come up and give us an update on Entergy's power restoration.
Good afternoon, parish officials and audience. Pleased to be with you today on a beautiful day in October in Southwest Louisiana. And although we've been hit very hard by Hurricane Delta on the heels of Hurricane Laura, we are a resilient community, and I want to encourage those of you viewing not to lose hope. We are making progress, and so at the present time, we are continuing to restore power in Southwest Louisiana. And we have about 900 customers remaining without power in Calcasieu Parish and approximately 33 in Cameron. Jeff Davis, we're around 800 customers in Acadia Parish, around 1,400. So our plans, as we mentioned to you 2 days ago, are to continue on that restoration with the goal of completion of the vast majority tomorrow in East Calcasieu and the Lake Charles area. And in the Jeff Davis area and Acadia areas, we hope to be complete on Friday, with a few possibly spilling over a day beyond that. As I mentioned before, the areas east in this parish were a little harder hit than West Calcasieu. So we finished the majority in West Calcasieu yesterday, with a few still today. I want to encourage customers who are still without power, we have not forgotten you. We have not forgotten you. We do, as we've mentioned several times before, we start with critical services. That is our planning. And then we move forward and try to restore where we can restore the most customers at one time as we make a repair. So it is hard to wait, but we are getting very close. So I want to encourage you to hang in there with us. I want to thank all the parish, local governmental officials, as well as law enforcement for working on this in a very collaborative way. That is such a positive way to do business, and I want to thank our citizens as well for being positive and patient through the trials that we've had on the heels of Delta and Hurricane Laura on top of a pandemic. You have shown patience, and we're grateful for that. I don't have the exact timeline, but it won't be too long before we resume reconnections as a result of Hurricane Laura. So we still had some reconnections that we were working on, and we recognize that there will be a great need for temporary housing as well, and it will require a little bit of patience for that, but we are going to work together with the officials to help that come to our community as well. In some cases, when you need additional poles installed to get temporary power for your new housing, it may take us just a little while, but I want to reassure you that we have not forgotten the needs that still exist as a result of Hurricane Laura and a result of Hurricane Delta. I'd like to encourage you to take a look at social media, take a look at Entergy's website. We have some very good pictures and videos of what's happened in this community. And today, a very powerful personal story was released. It's a story about a young Duke Energy lineman who got a diagnosis that he was cancer-free from a battle with cancer. He got that diagnosis on October 8th, and he asked to be a part of their travel team to come to Louisiana and restore power. And he worked right here in this area. It is a very heartwarming story. It tells the heart of the linemen and the people who work through storms to help with the recovery process. And I want to encourage you, it gave me sniffles, I won't kid you, but it also made me very proud to be a part of this community and a part of a larger community where we have utilities from out the nation who respond. where we have contractors who work in the electric utility business who respond. And what brings them the greatest satisfaction is to be able to restore power in an area where they've seen devastation. There is nothing that means more to them than to be a part of the recovery effort and to do it safely. So once again, we want the safety of this whole community to be top of mind, and we want to continue to finish out from Hurricane Delta and return to the needs of Hurricane Laura and do that safely. And we thank you for your patience in that endeavor. Any questions? What do you mean about any break? We are waiving deposits. If a customer needs power, we are waiving deposits. We have been very generous since the outset of COVID and not charging late fees. We have not been disconnecting, but we do still want to encourage people to pay bills as they're able and to make arrangements with us if they have large balances. We will make a payment plan with them. So we're waiving deposits. We've been waiving late fees, and we encourage customers to call and make payment arrangements with us. Any other questions related to that? We do have a special number that was set up related to the hurricanes, especially for reconnections. It is 866-557-4240. Frequently used numbers are 1-800-ENERGY, 1-800-368-3749. To call in outages, you can dial 1-800-9-OUTAGE. And of course, we have many different forms of reaching out to us via your smartphone and over the internet. There is one thing I forgot to mention. We have a couple of hard-hit areas. The Goss Ferry Road area has very high water. So we will be sending the group of customers up there a message probably tomorrow to let them know that until the waters recede in that area, we will not be able to return service to them. As a result of Hurricane Laura, we have access issues from the road not being passable at the Gum Cove Island area. I think those customers are very aware of the surroundings and the situation, but I want you to know you're not forgotten. And when the conditions are such that we can restore power in those areas, we will do so. So thank you for bearing with me as I forgot to make mention of that. Have a great day.
Thank you, Margaret. Beauregard Electric also continues with their efforts. They're a very similar position. They've made great progress. I don't have an exact date on their timeline, but it coincides a lot with the same outcomes Entergy is communicating. I want to read a statement from Suddenlink that was communicated to me from Robbie Lee, who is typically the one who speaks for Suddenlink here. So I'm just going to read it from his email. As of Wednesday afternoon, 24,000 customers, Suddenlink customers, which is 56% in Calcasieu Parish, are offline. That is an improvement over our Saturday morning offline statistics immediately following Hurricane Delta, which showed 38,000 customers, or 88% offline. So they're making improvements, and that is the latest information. He says, essentially, we've covered all the customers who lost service from Delta, Hurricane Delta, as well as some additional customers who had not been restored following Hurricane Laura, who have since come back online. Our restoration efforts continue to gain momentum as we work to restore service as quickly as possible. Again, that's from Suddenlink Communications from Robbie Lee. We're going to switch now to medical services, and I've got a statement I'm going to read now from Dr. Lacey Cavanaugh, the Region 5 Office of Public Health Director, and it deals with both COVID-19 and the community clinic. and I'm just going to read from her email as well. Dr. Kavanaugh says that COVID testing for the general public is open from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday at the Calcasieu Parish Health Unit, which is 3236 Kirkman Street, right at the corner of Kirkman and Prien Lake Road. It's no cost. The results come in 3 days, and they can test anyone over the age of 2. So that's COVID testing availability at no cost. COVID testing is also available for first responders from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the same location. Results can be obtained in 15 minutes, must bring first responder ID. And when you say first responder, she means police, firefighters, government officials with the parish and cities who are working the response, EMS, healthcare workers, and other disaster responders. Again, no cost for these tests. The community clinic, staffed by the LSU Lake Charles Memorial Hospital Family Medicine Residency Program, will be operational tomorrow, which is Thursday, October 15th. We were getting questions, I believe, at the last briefing about that. For now, anyway, it's just for tomorrow, but it'll be 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the parking lot at that same location, health unit at Prien and Kirkman. It's first come, first serve. It is no cost, and insurance is not required. Adults and children are accepted, no age limits. The clinic's able to provide routine prescription refills, do physical exams for minor problems, order labs and x-rays. They are not able to do procedures, however, like stitches and anything, I'm sure, more serious. But it is a very helpful thing in a time where not all medical facilities are open, and it is no cost. Again, that's Thursday, which is tomorrow, October 15th, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Calcasieu Parish Health Unit on Kirkman Street at Prien. Now we're going to hear from Tony Gilray, our police jury president, before we wrap up.
Thank you, Brian. And Margaret, I want to say that Brian, I want to see if we can't get a lineman put on top of our seal up there somewhere. So thank you to Energy for everything Energy has done. Just some reminders I want to send out that about the census again. That is very important that you go out and fill out for the census. You can go online to 2020census.gov, or you can call 844-330-2020. And again, just want to remind everybody, early voting starts Friday. This is very important. So please go out and early vote. Early voting is going to be in Sulphur at the Law Enforcement Center at 500 North Huntington Street in Sulphur. Moss Bluff Library at 261 Parish Road in Moss Bluff. And at the Lake Charles Civic Center. And it's going to be from 8 to 7, excluding Sundays. And again, thank you for everything. And I do support lifting of the curfew. So thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I want to apologize to everyone. I skipped a part. We'd like to hear from FEMA, and we have the Red Cross with us today, so I apologize. I'll call you all up now with FEMA. We have Jerry Stoller.
Thank you, Administrator Beam. It's good to be here again this afternoon. And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are continuing to work to get the temporary housing mission started. A couple things I just want to review as we get this program ramped up. I want to make sure everybody understands. Eligible families that have been referred for direct housing will be contacted by FEMA caseworkers. And the key point I want to make again is that not everyone that registers for FEMA is going to qualify for a direct housing referral. Okay, so those households that are going to be considered will be contacted by a FEMA caseworker to discuss their housing needs. We are continuing to reach out to these households. We did this even while we were all going through Hurricane Delta over the past week, and we've been making these calls 7 days a week. We've been doing them in the morning and in the afternoon, and in some cases even in the evening, to discuss housing options with these families. As I said, we are making movement. We're are making progress. We're moving a lot of the travel trailers and the mobile homes to our staging area in Alexandria. I'm pleased to report that even when Hurricane Delta came through, that it did not cause significant damage to the travel trailers or mobile homes that we had in Alexandria while that storm was passing through. So we're very thankful for that. And so what we've been doing this week is we've resumed our check of these units to make sure that everything is in a good working order before we move them into Southwest Louisiana. You know, we did, even though we've continued to make the calls to the survivors, we did have to stop the work here in the parish. We had been inspecting a lot of commercial parks, looking for pads that are suitable for travel trailers or mobile homes. And we've also been even looking at some private sites. But of course, that work had to stop. And our contractor had to, stop all their work and send all their people into a safe area. So it's taken them a couple of days to kind of ramp, get their folks back into Calcasieu Parish and to ramp that work back up. But that's well underway now. Again, with the cooperation of the parish, the fact that we have power restored, water restored, we're now able to get fully back to work. We are issuing work orders now for private sites and commercial parks, and we will, I think, this weekend see much more movement in terms of actually moving those travel trailers and mobile homes from Alexandria into Calcasieu Parish. We're also looking for opportunities for direct lease and multifamily lease and repair. Now, direct lease is a program. It's part of our direct housing options, where the federal government may be able to enter into an agreement with a property that has a number of units that normally private citizens aren't able to access. Not sure what the overall availability is here in Calcasieu or in Southwest Louisiana, but we are looking at that. The multifamily lease repair program, that is where we would partner with an apartment owner who had units that were damaged by Hurricane Laura, and work with them, help to subsidize repairs, and in exchange, the landlord would then agree to make those repaired units available to households who were displaced. And that may be an option here, and that would be another opportunity, another way that we can get families closer to their home, closer to where their children go to school and where they go to work. And so we're looking forward to seeing what the results of that may be. We have established a maintenance hotline for our manufactured housing units and our travel trailers. So when we eventually license households into these units, if something goes wrong, they will be able to call a maintenance hotline to have that repaired. I did want to talk about a couple of issues that we will have to work through as we install these units. I've mentioned in previous meetings here that all sites are going to have to be inspected prior to placing a unit, and that's whether it's a commercial site or a private site. And probably the biggest thing is, in most cases, the household, whoever that responsible party is in that household, they're going to have to arrange and contact their electric provider to arrange for a second service and meter on the manufactured housing unit. Now, the FEMA contractor will work through all the permitting. We've had great cooperation with the parish and local officials as far as getting waivers in place on various ordinances, and other executive orders have been issued that gives us a lot more flexibility in where we can put these units. So our FEMA contra will pull the permits for these. But again, the electric service, that's something that's going to be the absolute responsibility of the household. So that power hookup is very important. Any damage or defects that occur as we move that unit from Alexandria and in the process of getting it from Alexandria here to Calcasieu and installing it, any damage or defects on that unit is going to have to be repaired before we can license a household to one of those units. And then rights of entry become important, especially when we consider utility lines that service an MHU or travel trailer. If these are underground, they're going to have to be properly marked and identified by the contractor. May require a call to 811, and that's also something we're going to have to work through. And sometimes there's a time lag in performing all that. But the bottom line is, I know that everyone is very anxious right now to resume recovery. Now that we've been through 2 storms in the past 6 weeks, I want to assure everyone that everyone on the federal side is also anxious to get this work done. But again, safety is paramount, and that's why we are going to be very deliberate as we work through this process to ensure that we do this. Yes, we want to do it quickly, but we also want to do it safety. That is our top priority. The other thing I want to stress is that, one size doesn't fit all, and we are going to great lengths. I mentioned the phone calls that are going out to the households. We want to talk to these households, understand what the family composition is, understand and be aware of whatever access or functional needs there may be within that household so that we can provide the unit that best meets the needs of that family. So we are making every effort to do that. And again, it's not just about the temporary housing solution. Rental assistance is still our primary means of providing temporary housing, and it's something that we continue to offer to those who've registered with FEMA. And for those that are still in a non-congregate sheltering setting, we know that this is not certainly an ideal temporary or certainly not a long-term solution. So again, we're working very closely with the state, the Red Cross, Department of Children and Family Services to work with all the families in that setting. And I know that some of those households that may not have received substantial damage, like that had their home that was destroyed or major damage, I know that they will be contacted by the Red Cross or DCFS about their particular case and when they may be able to return home. That's the latest on the temporary housing program. I'm very confident that when I stand up here next week, I'll be able to provide some information on households that have been actually placed into units here in Calcasieu Parish. We're very close. Again, Hurricane Delta, we had to take a pause, had to suspend operations for safety reasons, but we're, thanks to the partnership with the parish and the local jurisdictions, we're just about ready to get this thing kicked off. Now, for Hurricane Delta, I want to remind everybody here that survivors of Laura who have new damage, I think it's really important that you take pictures, that you maybe take video of this damage, and that you report this very soon to your insurance companies. And as Dick mentioned earlier on, you can play a role in the state's overall damage assessment process for Hurricane Delta by reporting this new damage that you have from Hurricane Delta. And you can do that online at www.damage.la.gov. And again, any determination on federal assistance for this new damage will only be made after the assessments have been completed by the state and local officials, and then after a request from the state has been sent to the president for a major disaster declaration. I want to just a couple of final points to remind you of a couple of other, another important form of assistance that we currently have going on. The Army Corps of Engineers has reinstated their signups for Operation Blue Roof. This is available to anyone in Calcasieu Parish or in 5 other parishes here in Southwest Louisiana. You don't have to register for FEMA to take advantage of this, but if you had your blue roof damaged, you can sign up to have it repaired. They will need a right of entry for that. And you have until the 24th of this month, until the 24th of October to sign up. And you can do so by calling 888-766-3258. That's 888-766-3258. Or you can do this online at www.usace, that's usace.army.mil/blue roof, and that's all one word, blue roof. And again, the deadline is October 24th. And then my final point on FEMA registration, that deadline is approaching as well, and that is on October the 27th. So if you're not already done so, please encourage you to take advantage of this. 800-621-3362 is the most common way to register for FEMA assistance. You can also do so, though, online at www.disasterassistance.gov or by downloading the FEMA app on your iPhone. And as of close of business yesterday, there were over 92,600 households in Calcasieu Parish that had registered for assistance. And that has resulted in more than $73.4 million in housing assistance that has been approved for households that had damage from Hurricane Laura, and that's just in Calcasieu Parish. So again, we look forward to working through the temporary housing needs of the parish, and we also look forward to the results of the damage assessments for Hurricane Delta and additional opportunities there may be for federal assistance from that event. Subject to your questions, that's all I have.
We have newly homeless people just this week, 2 apartment complexes on Weaver Road. One is the Ridge, the other is the Villa, I understand, for elderly people. They've received paperwork earlier than today. Today was the last day for the residents in the Ridge, as I understand it, to get out, and they have until the 30th to get their belongings out. The management of the apartment complex is not calling it an eviction. They're calling it a lease termination. But nevertheless, all the people in these complexes are having to find new places to live. They're not finding places to rent, and they're not finding storage buildings to put their things. One lady I interviewed said that they offered her an apartment in Arkansas, and she doesn't care to move to Arkansas. I have no idea whether these people have already registered for FEMA, but if they did, their circumstances have changed now. So what would you suggest for them? And I believe that there will be, in excess of 100 of them.
Yes, we're aware of this problem, and we're working very closely with local officials, with the Red Cross, Department of Children and Family Services, and with the state. Because I think one option will be for these households, if they have no place else to go, will be to take advantage of the non-congregate shelter program that is currently in place until we can further, until the Public Housing Authority can continue to work with these households, or if they eventually end up, as a last resort, working with FEMA and to see what temporary housing option is there. But I think the first the first option for them would be the non-congregate shelter program, and I know the parish has their program in place where they can actually pick these households up, take them to the airport, make sure they're properly processed, and then transported to Alexandria, where at the Megger shelter there'll be further case management resources available to assist them.
Is there any help as far as finding a storage building when I've heard from numerous people that you can't find a storage building?
Yeah, I can't speak to any additional financial opportunities that they might have. I'm sure there are a number of volunteer organizations that are active in partnering with the state as they work through those households that are in non-congregate sheltering, but I can't speak to any of that at this time.
Do you have a date by which the first people who are getting FEMA trailers will have their trailer?
And it's very, very soon. Okay, we have a lot of this depends on the availability of the household to be licensed in, but it's going to be in the very near future. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Jerry. We'll next hear from Ed Bush with the Red Cross.
Thanks, Brian. Ed Bush with the Red Cross. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening, go over a few updates and a few notes, kind of provide a snapshot of where the Red Cross is at, and certainly on behalf of the Red Cross, we consider an honor to be part of this incredible rebuild. So the arrival and departure of Delta has caused us to turn back on a few resources and a few services that we had previously turned off. We thought we'd move past these, and in some cases we're turning a few things back on, and then in some cases we're things that we had to pause because Delta was coming, we're now getting ready to start up again. So I think now is a very good time to make everybody aware of what these things are. So today, as of today, our priorities are sheltering, identification of needs, and damage assessment. So let's talk sheltering. So we remain partnered with DCFS for all sheltering requirements for the state, both congregate and non-congregate. And as this is all part of the overall shelter transition operation, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So currently the Red Cross is managing 12 non-congregate shelters, hotels, in Louisiana, 10 in New Orleans, 1 in Lafayette, and 1 in Baton Rouge. And the transition of Louisianans from Texas to Louisiana and from congregate shelters into non-congregate or back home are our two primary missions as of today. So let's talk just a second more about the shelter transition operation. First and foremost, it's a partnership. It's a partnership between multiple federal and state level organizations, and we've all got a different piece of this, but we have one common goal, and it's to safely, respectfully, and efficiently consolidate and transport our clients, those residents of Lake Charles, and consolidate hotels to get with the ultimate goal of, at the end of the day, the only people who are still remaining in a non-congregate shelter, a hotel, would be those people whose home is either destroyed or major damaged, or for whatever their specific reasons, they can't return to where they were living and being case managed at that point. So we have 3 separate groups of people. You've got a group in Texas, 2 hotels, about 2,200 people total. One of those hotels has all the major damage, and one of those have minor, and they're kind of waiting to return home. And you've got those 12 hotels in Louisiana. That's almost 7,000 people, 6,714 clients. Again, some with major damage and some with minor. And then you've got the folks in congregate shelters. That's about 600 that are largely there. They were here in Lake Charles trying to get back on their feet, trying to get their homes together, and they had to evacuate because of Delta. And they're in a congregate setting. So those folks from Texas and those folks in the congregate, those are our primary focus to get them back home or back to Louisiana. So there's a little bit of confusion, and I think people feel shuffled along. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about, who does what in this whole process. So DCFS at the state level is working with the parish down here in Calcasieu, and they're agreeing on when and how and where and how many to bring and what does that timeline look like and how does that work. And that conversation is going on now. So who else does what? So the Red Cross is there at the hotels, and we're trying to confirm who has what type of damage assessment. Some people's damage assessment has changed. Delta has people who thought they were okay or maybe had 1 degree of damage. It's now different because of Delta. So we got to go back out and redo all those damage assessments. So we're working that piece now. And then when the parish and the city and the state come to an agreement on here's who we're going to bring and when they're going to do that, the Red Cross helps to identify those people, and we put them on those buses or we give them the green light to go home. And then the DOTD piece kicks in, and DOTD brings those buses here, and then the city piece comes in, the city's prepared to receive. My point is it's a whole support mechanism of all these agencies working together to try to make sure that no one feels like they're being left to fall through the cracks. And we've all got one common goal. And again, I know that there are people out there who feel shuffled along by this process, and I would just thank them for their patience and ask them to hang on for a little bit longer. You've got a lot of agencies working very hard to get people where they need to be and try to get them some degree of stability in their lives. So our other 2 priorities that I talked about were identification of needs and damage assessment. Again, we've had to turn on some things, and here in Louisiana, we are providing some feeding mechanisms and supplies. We're currently feeding at 6 locations throughout the state, primarily Acadia and Beauregard Parish at this time, and we expect some of that numbers to grow. And the damage assessment, as I previously mentioned, we're currently working the damage assessment now, working concurrently with the fire marshal and with FEMA. Again, our priority is to get the good, accurate damage assessment for anyone who's in the congregate setting and anyone who we had previously thought was minor or affected, to see if those changes are there, and all that towards one common goal. One final note, we continue to stand up a volunteer force, and currently in Louisiana we have approximately 500 staff and volunteers on the job. And as always, I would ask for volunteers, that we can never have enough volunteer support in a virtual or an on-the-ground environment, and people can volunteer through 1-800-RED CROSS or www.redcross.org. And with that, pending any questions, that's all I have for this evening.
We're still getting questions about whether people can get DSNAP cards for Delta. I think perhaps that's in the process of being answered today. And also people who have not been able to get their cards due to delivery issues. And I know you're in communication with the Department of Family Services. That's why I thought maybe you knew something about that.
What I would do is I would pass that along as a concern and see if someone could reach out back to the parish and give a good status update on where they're at with DSNAP. Yeah, I don't want to talk a program that's not mine. Yeah. Anything else? Okay, thank you so much.
Appreciate you being here, Ed, and the Red Cross. That concludes our briefing today. We will not schedule another briefing until next Wednesday, which is October 21st at 4 p.m. Location to be determined. It may be in this building, may be back in our Emergency Operations Center, depending on its readiness. I do want to say, though, on a daily basis, multiple times a day, on our Police Jury Facebook page and other website and other online sources, information is posted, and we get anything from Red Cross, FEMA, cities, state agencies, anything from the parish. So it's very easy to find information, and if there's a need to call something before that, we will. But again, just to repeat, next Wednesday is our next public briefing, October 21st, 4 p.m. Any questions before we conclude? Yes.
I had a couple. Our viewers were asking about, can you get tetanus shots at that clinic that you were referring to? And also, we know that the Louisiana Department of Insurance is set up at a local recreation center, but our viewers want to know, short of hiring an attorney, if there is anyone who can assist them with dealing with the insurance companies.
Let me go to your first question on tetanus shots. My understanding is that they do. I hate that I can't answer for sure, but we can certainly I can get an answer back in case the station wants to put that on the website and add it. We can find that out pretty easily. I do know that they had a supply. I think part of the problem, I'm thinking of flu shots, Teresa. We were told that I think some of the storage of the vaccines is tougher because of refrigeration or so forth, but so I don't want to say positive, but we'll have to get that to you. On the help with Insurance questions. I don't know of that. Now, the local legal help that would normally be there, I'm not sure they are in service. It may be something, however, that the Attorney General's office could answer with the state, at least as to what might be available. That'd be my first suggestion for people who want to just ask. And I think there's probably a resource there. I just don't have that in front of me. But we're certainly happy to try to find that if needed. Anything else? We appreciate everybody's time. That'll conclude our public briefing.